Of economic fluctuations in trade and finance, as well as a mounting threat of climate change, all of which call for the world to reflect on and forge a new path that can address emerging crises that impact developmental trends. Now, today, the UNCTAD will host a pre-event session in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, which will focus on demand for critical minerals to boost inclusive growth and sustainable development. Botswana's ambassador to Ethiopia, His Excellency Tebelelo Boang, joins me via Skype to discuss challenges and opportunities that need to be addressed to effectively optimize minerals for sustainable development. His Excellency, good morning and thank you for joining us.
On this beautiful day.
Absolutely. Let's first reflect on the 6 decades of the UNCTAD's existence. What role has the agency played in charting new development for least development, landlocked developing countries, as well as the small island states?
Good morning again. The UNCTAD, or UNCTAD, as it's mostly known, has come about as a result of the realization that there was quite... can you see me, Mark? Can you hear me? Came about as a result of the realization that there was quite a lot of inequality. You will recall that most of the developing countries, in fact, if we were to take the example of Africa, were not independent for quite some time. They were under colonial rule. And even after independence, there was this challenge of scientific development. There were those countries that were already developed, given the advantages that they have had of having been independent and also determining their own destiny. So the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development was founded around those that believe that there has to be equity and, of course, transparency and governance in terms of the development trajectory of the traveler. So most of the developing countries felt that they were marginalized, and then that there has to be an environment and a platform whereby they could also work together and advocate for inclusivity and equitable development around the world. So it has been the role of the UNCTAD, advisory in nature, whether it's in terms of development of policies and as well as capacitating the least developed countries to also be on a productive development path. So that's how the UNCTAD has been working, and Botswana has been a beneficiary of the activities and work of the UNCTAD through advisory and the capacity building.
Right. And the 60th anniversary comes at a time when the world is facing multiple crises ranging from global trade, climate change to now soaring debt, which has negatively affected developing countries. How critical is it for the world to actually reflect on these challenges and explore new strategies? And what should be the focus really at this point?
For this year's event, especially at the regional level, this is when we talk about, let's say, being in Africa. There is the regional office of the UNCTAD, which is also based here in Addis Ababa, and also within the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. So, as you can be aware, Africa, like the rest of other developing regions, is also grappling with these issues of inequality, issues of maximizing its potential, especially when it comes to, for instance, it was very clear that for this event, the thing is maximizing Africa's potential as well as leveraging on the demand for minerals to boost inclusive growth and sustainable development. Africa, as we are aware, is well endowed with most of the resources. Perhaps that is why it was even colonized, because it's seen as a repository of very critical minerals for development. So in this area, especially given climate change, it has realized that there has to be what we call production of green energy, a green revolution, so that we can reduce the emissions of the pollution levels as we experience in the world. Africa owns most of these critical raw materials such as lithium, cobalt, or even copper, and manganese. Botswana, we are still at the very exploratory stage on some of these minerals, but most of African countries have these. So what we are going to be discussing and the intention of the three events is to see how can Africa maximize on this so that it can get the good deal out of this necessary raw materials, as well as contributing to reduction in emissions and a green environment.
When we began our conversation, you did make a mention of the fact that Botswana has been a beneficiary of this the UNCTAD. Now, how has the country leveraged on various trade-related policies for preferential market access?
As the Republic of Botswana, be well aware, we have always been, for instance, arguing that there has to be more value that we get out of our natural endowments. So the United Nations has us to be able to help and develop more policies that will enable us to be able to trade free and also develop policies that can benefit our local economy, so that our minerals are what we always call, like for instance, our diamonds. We speak to our diamonds being diamonds for development. So as such, we can invest in the development of the economy, also invest in infrastructure and social services that can really benefit the people of the Republic of Botswana.
Right. And while still on that point, how can Botswana in this regard encourage diversification of its mineral sector beyond diamonds?
As I've already indicated, the country is at this stage on a high exploratory process. You know that as we speak, we have diamonds, but of course we realize that there has to be a diversification in terms of the mineral base. So at the present moment, Botswana is on an exploratory phase, and we are trying by all means to ensure that it goes back on certain spot, which has already been high, and the figures and came down. But there are other mines that have been opened lately, and there is also a discovery of deposits of manganese around the mining area. And exploration is still going to go on to find other minerals that can be exploited for further development of the country beyond diamonds, and as well embarking on a very deliberate beneficiation and value addition strategy, so that we can get more out of our resources and exporting them as far as they are. Whenever there is value addition, creates more employment, it brings more returns for the economy. So that is the intention to explore more of the countryside and find more resources beyond the diamond, and as well more beneficiation and value addition, so that we can get a better return out of our resources.
Right. And still on the conversation of exploration, I'm also drawn to, wondering in what ways can we actually ensure as Botswana environmental sustainability in these mining activities and these exploration activities that you keep referring to?
The Republic of Botswana has very clear and elaborate legislation in terms of the environmental responsibility. After all the exploration, certainly the environmental standards supposed to be met. So the environmental impact assessment studies that have been completed and submitted before the competent and relevant authorities before any exploitation can be done. And this is continuously monitored to ensure that those that are involved in the business of mining also are protected of the environment and very much aware of their responsibilities in terms of managing the environment.
Right. You spoke about beneficiation just a little bit earlier there, and I want to understand from your perspective, how can Botswana enhance community engagement to ensure that mining projects benefit local economies in actual sense?
One of the existing and practiced policy decisions is that there has to be social corporate responsibility. So in that light, all the companies that are involved in the mining sector or any other business should also be cognizant of the fact that they are not just mining inhabited areas. There are communities, there are people who live in those areas. And apart from being in those areas, as companies also provide environment for local, employment for the local companies. So that is expected that as responsible entities that are doing business, they should also be benefits for the local communities. That's why there is the concept and policy of social corporate responsibility. The companies are encouraged to really work with the communities and also invest in various projects and activities that should also benefit the communities within which they operate beyond offering employment opportunities. There are various services, for instance, like supported to the development activities of any village or the villages that are from those areas, that companies that operate in those areas can also assist in terms of development of the community.
Right. And lastly, as we wrap up our conversation this morning, what role can Botswana play in regional initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, to harness Africa's mineral wealth?
Botswana has vast experience in the mining and mineral sector. We have also known we have robust and effective governance structures in terms of community involvement. We also do our partnerships with the various companies, gain the sufficient experience technologically and otherwise. And as I said, good governance, and certainly as we have the expertise in the mining sector, we can really contribute immensely to the further development of in terms of regional integration. And all investing together. We will still be managing the movement behind compared to other regions. But we have made a decision as African continent that we are going to work together. We have to do more intra-regional trade. So I believe that the expertise that we bring on board can be very useful. The governance, which is very, very vital, and the policies that we have developed as the Republic of Botswana, as we have said, inclusivity and the benefit for the communities, of course, for sustainable development is very critical. So I believe Botswana has got the vast experience that can be tapped into by other African countries for the implementation and benefit of our AFCFTA.
Absolutely. And we also understand that today you're hosting a pre-event in Addis Ababa, which will focus on demand for critical minerals to boost inclusive growth and sustainable development. We definitely will be keeping a very close eye and ear on the conversation to hear how, what the conversations really are and what the concerns are in that space, what can be done in actual sense. So thank you so much, His Excellency, for taking time out this morning to talk to us about this very important conversation.
Thank you very much, Abdullah.
Absolutely. We're in conversation there with Botswana's ambassador to Mr. Tebelelo Boang, who was talking to us about the 60th anniversary of the UN Trade and Development, UNCTAD, which is a United Nations body that was established in 1964 to ensure the inclusivity of globalization.